So when I was 2, my parents divorced. I lived with my mom and grandparents. I grew up as any normal American kid. Played outside all the time, played video games, baseball. And I had a fundamental of the Christian belief. I always knew who God was, and I don't remember ever not knowing who Jesus was. I was naive about a lot of things. My friends would make these sexual jokes, and I would have no idea what they were talking about, but I would laugh along with them. I was afraid to ask what they meant for fear of shame and ridicule in front of everybody. So this created the habit of me keeping things to myself. When I was in 4th grade, I started playing Little League Baseball, and this became a big part of my life. I found I was naturally good at it, and over the years, the teams I was on, we won a lot. We won a lot of championships, and people started noticing my ability to play, and I really liked the attention I was getting because of baseball. Throughout my early years, I went to church just enough to know about salvation. When I hit the age of 13, that's when it really started to come to the forefront of my mind. And though I was basically a good kid, I was afraid of going to hell. One night, a Christian band came to perform at our church, and they gave the altar call at the end, and it seemed like I was there immediately. And I believe that the Lord really did something to me that moment, because now I would read Scripture and read about Jesus dying for my sins, and it would bring me to tears. It really affected me. About a month after this, one afternoon I was flipping through the channels, and it landed on HBO. And before me was a nude scene. And immediately I was gripped. My heart started racing with this violence that I had never felt before. I was afraid and intrigued all at the same time. I knew it was wrong, but I wanted it. And this opened up a way of looking at girls that was a brand new experience for me, and I liked it. So I started eyeing women on TV, in the movies, looking at magazines in the checkout line, and it progressed to Victoria's Secret catalogs and lingerie ads. And all of this thinking led me eventually to masturbation. At the age of 14, I came across a TV channel that was playing softcore pornography. It was staticky, a bunch of wavy lines, but I saw enough. And this became my regular routine. Every Friday and Saturday night, when everybody went to bed, I could be in the dark and watch this, and it stayed that way for a while. My junior year of high school, we got a computer and we got the internet. And I discovered hardcore pornography. And this was at such a level, it not only grabbed my attention, it grabbed my heart. It grabbed a piece of me. The problem was the computer was in the dining room where anybody could see. So I really had to time things right. I really had to find little instances where I could go and get it. It didn't matter if it was 10 seconds or 10 minutes long. I wanted it, and I would do whatever I could to get it. I always wanted to be a good kid. I had seen what the bad kids were like in school, and I didn't want any part of that. They were always getting in trouble. They were always getting laughed at and pointed at. So I decided to be the complete opposite. I was punctual. I did what I was told by teachers. I excelled in sports. I had a lot of friends, and that was the image that I wanted to portray to everybody. This is how I lived my life until the day my mom found out what I had been doing on the computer. She found out through a history search. The only thing my mom knew to do was to put me into church. So she said, I want you in church on Sunday and I want you at youth group. And that's exactly what I did. But instead of helping me, I took it as an opportunity to inflate and enhance my image instead of bringing my sin out into the light. After high school, I went to Berea College and I got a laptop computer for the first time. Now I could get into pornography anytime, anywhere, and I relished the opportunity to do so. Classes, friends, all these things were just hindrances for me getting into what I desperately wanted, and I wanted pornography. One thing I did not let pornography hinder in my life was my love for baseball. Being a part of a college team, I really had to dedicate almost all of my time to it, and it was something that I really and thoroughly enjoyed. And I remember this one game where we played the number 4 team in the country. And on this particular occasion, I rose to the top. I played my A game. I held the team to 2 runs all the way up to the 8th inning. Then my arm started to tire, and the coach swapped me out with the center fielder. And then he gave up a home run ball right over center field, right where I was, and I watched the ball go over the fence, and we ended up losing. Even though we lost the game, baseball continued to be a positive in my college experience, mostly because it served as a way to enhance this good guy image that I was building up for myself. In the meantime, I met this girl, and her name was Dina, and there was just something about her that was special, that was different, and I was drawn to her. Within a few months of meeting her, we ended up dating officially. It didn't take me long in the relationship to start having serious feelings for her. And so I knew if this was going to be serious as I was thinking, I needed to confess. I needed to tell her about my pornography issue. I was hoping to get something compassionate, something understanding. But instead, I got revulsion and disgust from her. In her mind, a Christian guy should not be looking at these things. And so her advice to me was, just stop it. Unfortunately, it was not that easy to just stop. And based on her reaction, I decided I can't go to her with my problems. So I hid it more, I got in the dark more, and my problem kept getting worse. By the end of college, I had spent an enormous amount of money on pornography. Dina and I dated all throughout college, and we eventually got married. And I saw marriage as my opportunity to get free of my addiction. And I was good for about a month. But then afterwards, I started getting back into my old habits, and I had to sneak around to get what I wanted. And it eventually got so bad that I knew I have to confess. I have to do something. But this ended up starting a cycle in my life of confessing, hiding, falling, confessing, hiding, falling, just nonstop. This became such a burden in our marriage that we had to separate. During this time of separation, I made more of an effort to get help. So I started seeing a sexual addiction counselor. I went to 2 different Celebrate Recovery groups, and I went to 3 other support groups, but nothing was helping. I remember leaving these groups at times and going straight to an adult bookstore. It just so happened, I was in an adult bookstore one day, and Dina called me. She kept calling and kept calling and kept calling, and I didn't pick up. When I eventually talked to her, I lied to her about what I was doing, but she knew. She had an idea. And after I talked to her, I realized I've got to take drastic measures if I'm going to save this marriage, if I'm going to get free of this thing. And that's when the Lord brought about Pure Life Ministries. On April 23rd, 2007, I arrived at Pure Life campus. And I immediately knew something was different. This wasn't just a program. This wasn't just a group. You could sense the life of God here. And hope for me was actually within reach. And that was something I'd never felt before. And Dina had a peace so much. And she knew too that this was the place that we were actually going to find real change and that God was going to do something here. My time in the residential program, I didn't have a big moment. It was a gradual thing. The Lord kept speaking to my heart. Every service, every book I read, every meeting with my counselor, He kept showing me His love for me, that in spite of the fact that I had given so much of my life to pornography, that He had given me His Son, and it wrecked me. Thinking about the cross, which was always brought up in meetings and was always where I was pointed to, it changed me. The fact that God would do this for somebody like me As good as I thought I was, God showed me my sin and how wretched I actually was, but at the same time, He offered a way out through His Son for me, and it changed me. Life on campus was different than anything I was accustomed to. I was separated from a lot of the worldly influences. No TV, no internet, didn't even have my phone. And being in that kind of atmosphere really allowed me to get my focus off of me and onto the Lord. And the biggest help for me was spending time in the Word and spending time in prayer. Without that, if it's not a part of my life, even now, I feel like something's missing. I feel like something is off. I eventually graduated the residential program, and that was almost 10 years ago. And I can divide my life into two: before Pure Life and after Pure Life. I've had occasional struggles, but I can count on one hand the number of times I've fallen back into pornography. And for me, that's incredible. Living a life of secret sin while having to maintain a good guy image was just exhausting. And I don't have to do that anymore. I can't describe what it means to me to be able to look my wife in her eyes and not have anything to hide from her.